How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. You've probably seen this news circulating around with Sony now owing $7.5 billion, with the CMA basically saying that the class action lawsuit accusing Sony of overcharging PlayStation Store users can now go ahead. Now, this isn't so much as them overcharge, well, there is an element of this because there is price fixing in place here, and with no competition, there's nothing the consumer can do in order to go and try and get a better deal. Now, as you know, when it comes to Xbox, Steam, Google, Apple, there are other places you can go and get those digital codes from and actually get what you need. You're not restricted or confined to their own ecosystem of a platform. You can go to supermarkets, you can go wherever you want, really. There is always options. But when it comes to the Sony PlayStation, there is no option. It's either PlayStation or the highway. And this is where the crux of the actual complaint comes in. This is where the actual lawsuit is actually taking place. Of course, this does heavily point towards the whole anti-consumer aspect. I know people are going to turn around and say, well, it's their ecosystem, they can do what they want. That's not how the competition authorities work. But so for the longest time, all these PlayStation fans were copying and capping for the CMA with the Activision Blizzard deal. I'd really like them to do the same right now with the anti-consumer practices of Sony, where they're about to be fined up to $7.9 billion. And the chances of this actually not happening is ridiculously low, because there are multiple reasons for this, and there really is no excuse for Sony or defense for Sony to be able to get out of this. So if you do find this video useful, informative, or simply want to show support to the channel, drop a like. It really helps the channel grow. Let's go for that 350 likes. Hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to that 6,000 subs as the next milestone. The ultimate milestone being 7.5 by Christmas, but 6,000 is the next one. We're only 300 subs away. If you want to support the channel further, you can join my YouTube membership, starting from as little as £1, or you can join my Patreon, or you can just simply hit that super thanks. Just the other day, I got my first super thanks. I really appreciate it, so thank you so much. It really goes a long way in supporting what I do. Right, as we can see here, Peter says, breaking, the CMA has said that a class action lawsuit accusing Sony of overcharging PlayStation Store users can now go to trial. They are accused of overcharging by up to $5 billion. Now we also have this over here. PlayStation could be destroyed if $7 billion lawsuit is successful. Sony could be in serious trouble if that $7 billion is hit and they have to pay it all. And there is a really good chance that they will have to, because they by themselves have eliminated all competition and created a monopoly. Now I'll get into that in a little bit, but that is basically the crux of this actual issue, and that is basically what the problem is. And Sony have done it to themselves. It's nothing else that anyone has done. They brought the attention onto themselves as well with how closely tied to the CMA they were. They thought they would have gotten away unscathed, but the CMA's gaze, as well as other institutes, regulators, have pretty much been on them now because they were in the limelight, and the CMA is out for blood at this point. If regulators in other jurisdictions sue, then they will be 100% be wrecked and will have to do something drastic to remain alive. Now this is also true because it isn't just in the UK or Europe that this is happening, it's happening globally. And if other regulators decide that they also want to take Sony to court, this could be a serious problem for Sony. I'm talking catastrophic levels. There is nothing really out there that can make them survive if everyone decides to sue them for $7 billion. You know, we're talking about, what, 20 regulators? That's a lot of money. Really a lot of money. Money that Sony just can't just dig up and produce, right? Now, as you can see from VGC here, a class action lawsuit accusing Sony overcharging PlayStation Store users about up to $5 billion can proceed to trial, the UK Specialist Court has ruled. So what is actually going on here? Why are they being sued? Because a lot of people are saying it's for the 30%, and they're complaining, especially the PlayStation fans, it's what Microsoft, Apple, Google, you know, they're all doing. Nintendo, Valve, they all charge that 30%. The only one that doesn't charge it is Epic Game Store. But at the same time, none of the community actually care about publishers retaining stuff. They'd rather pay an additional 18% to Steam and have staff layoffs for those publishers. I'm saying that because that does have an influence on the actual staff layoffs. Revenue is revenue, and if you're happy for the publishers to lose 18% revenue on each sale, that's going to get passed off to the little guy, right? So do keep that in mind the next time you start spouting about. But that's not what this is all about. This has nothing to do with the current situation that we're in with this lawsuit. This lawsuit is all about digital codes. Whether you like it or not, Sony has restricted all digital codes. The only outlet I know that actually sells PlayStation digital codes is Shop2. They're a UK store, and they actually sell it for a little bit cheaper than what you can actually get. Not by much, but it is noticeably cheaper. So that's generally where I go get my codes. But outside of them, and I don't know how they're doing it or how they're getting it, but you can't buy it anywhere else. If you go to a supermarket, they don't sell PSN cards. If you go to anywhere else, they just don't sell it. At least not where the shops I'm going to. And that seems to be the general consensus for everyone else. If you want to buy an Apple card, the Xbox card, a Roblox card, a Google card, a Nintendo card, you can buy all of those. But when it comes to PSN, you cannot. It is locked within Sony, and they've basically locked out all competition from selling vouchers, including games. If you go to Game, for example, here in the UK, you can buy a digital version of the game, go home, put the code in, and you redeem it. You can't do that when it comes to PlayStation games. They just don't offer that service. So they've created a monopoly where the only way you can buy digital games is through the PlayStation Store. And this then forces, publishers to pay that 30% instead of actually being able to pay less when they're dealing with the actual stores. But on top of that, that cost that they're getting is forcing the price up and getting passed on to the consumer. Now, as we saw with Remedy Games 505 with Alan Wake 2, they actually made a deal with Epic Games Store with the 12% or 10% store charge that they get for having the game in their store. But at the same time, because it was digital only as well, they were able to knock off almost £20. Well, they did knock off £20 of the actual game price and pass that saving that they got onto the consumer. So one has to wonder, if Sony hadn't created this kind of monopoly, and if these companies weren't charging 30%, would that saving from these other companies get passed on to the consumer? Maybe, maybe not. But at the same time, what's happening here is that Sony has created a monopoly and is basically judge jury. If you don't like the price we charge, go to hell is the general answer. There is nowhere else you can go to buy it. There is nowhere else you can go and make those transactions. You are limited to the Sony store. Now, some people will turn around and say it's their ecosystem, it's their store, they can do what they like. Unfortunately, that is not how the world works, as we saw with the whole cloud situation when it comes to Microsoft and ABK. The regulators will stick their nose in, and just like everyone else championed that one in that situation, when cloud is such a nascent currency right now, the digital front when it comes to Sony is a much bigger problem. And at the same time, there is nothing out there that can, how can I put this, challenge it. There's no competition. There's no, equal market there. Everything else has it. So I really don't see how Sony's going to get out of this. I think this is going to be pretty damning for Sony. I suspect they may want to come to an agreement real quick out of court, because if this does go to trial, they're going to lose, and they're going to lose badly. And once they, the other regulators see that the CMA is winning, and the CMA at the moment is like a bloodhound, they are going after everyone. The moment they see that the CMA is winning, you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to be jumping in as well and seeking that nice, sweet $7 billion themselves. At that point, Sony is digging themselves a grave that they probably can't get out of. Forget third party, they could be eliminated. I don't know, folks. This is actually pretty serious stuff. It's a lot of money playing here. And, my perception, obviously I'm not a legal expert, would be for Sony to do an out-of-court settlement, get this shit done, out of the way, out of the media, you can also see like a lot of the media aren't even reporting on this because of how shill they are. But this is a big deal. This is a really, really big deal. And for Sony's sake and for the games industry's sake, I really hope they sort this out really quickly because they kind of need to. Right, everyone? You let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that discussion, and I will see you in the next one.